welcome back to Help Me Out with Shema Ladd, your personal development and premarital life coach. So, this month we're covering daddy daughters. So, today, let's talk about what type of father did you have? What type of father are you? What type of father are you? Now, there's different types of men, and we all know this. Different types of dads, and we all know this. But let's cover just a few. We have dads and personality types. Maybe you were, like I said, my father was a very strong man. Did you build yourself from the ground up? Did you come from the mud up? Where did you come from, Daddy? And where did your daddy come from, Daddy? Grandpa, great-grandpa? And that could be different depending on your culture. It could be completely cultural, whether you came from North America or maybe you grew up in the Middle East. Maybe you're from Great Britain or the UK. Maybe you come from Africa. Where did you come from, Dad? All these things play a part. All these things play a part. I have a client now. She's a Caucasian woman, but she chose to have a child with a man from Iran. Big cultural differences, big beliefs. She had a daughter, not a son. Big differences, big cultural beliefs. Okay? I have a client, she is Vietnamese, but she married a Hispanic husband. Cultural differences, different belief systems. They have a daughter. Okay? So it makes a difference on what type of father you had. For me, my father was a very proud man. My father, he identifies himself as African American, but he's black and white. My grandmother's father is white, so my great-grandfather is a white man, and her mother was black. So black and white on that side. My mother's side is Indian and black. So my grandparents, they're Indian, so they didn't have to endure some of the things that maybe my African American ancestors had to go through. So my Indian family, they could go in restaurants and in buildings and not be harassed, and this was our land. Indian, Native American, so we should have the right to go wherever we want, right? But on the African American side, it was different. So dads, you may feel that you have to teach your children or install into your kids certain concepts of understanding about society, economies, the way things operate. For me, again, my father was a very proud man. So when you say he was a proud man, on the African American side, everyone in other cultures would look at that and say, he should be a proud man. Keep your head held high. But there's a boundary line, a fine line when it comes to pride. My father also held a lot of arrogance. Did you have an arrogant father? Daddy, are you proud and arrogant? Are you so self-sustaining and self-sufficient that it leads to pride and arrogance? I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. I'm not. It's just conversation. All of these things play into a daddy-daughter relationship. Now, daddies might not think that is so, but I am an intelligent daughter, and I have done my homework. So, keep listening. Hi, Daddy. Hey, Grandpa, uncle, brother, cousin. Hey. Yes. So then you have other fathers who are more, maybe they're passive. Maybe you have a father where the mother wore the pants. Maybe mother was abusive. Dad's very passive. Maybe he had a mother that was heavy-handed, I'll say. Because, in the older days, parents really believed in disciplining their children, spare the rod, spoil the child. They believed in a lot of that. So the aspects were different. The eras were different. Or maybe you're a younger father and you have a millennial daughter. And you're not understanding, well, what do I do with a girl? What do I do with that? What do I do with a girl? How do I develop a relationship that has healthy boundaries with me and my daughter, and we come out shining, maybe even inspiring other daddy daughters? How do you do that? How do you do that? I was raised by a man, and I came out all right. I think so, anyhow. You have different types. Arrogant, passive. I have one client, her father sexualized her. She calls it, he sexualized her. Adding to, and you might be a father that's highly sensual, highly stimulated. Not saying by your daughter. I'm not saying that at all. But if you're one of those fathers that maybe you like to sow your royal oats. Are you that dad who, Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. And when he died, all he left us was alone. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Okay, so maybe you was a Rolling Stone. I don't know. What type of father were you? Maybe you were a homeless father. There are some fathers out there who are what we call bums. Some people say that in a negative way. Some people say that in a more compassionate way. Empathetic way, maybe. But were you a bum? Some fathers are on drugs, but they still keep in touch with their daughters. I have a cousin, her father was that way, but she just wanted to know her dad. And some dads feel like, I failed. I'm not a good example. The mother raised their child differently. I'm not familiar with her lifestyle and their cultures and how they raised my child. My child is going to look at me through the mother's eyes. My child is going to look at me through eyes of disappointment, dissatisfaction, humiliation, shame. Stop right there, Daddy. Stop right there. Daddy-daughter relationships. Daughters are different from sons. Daughters have unconditional love. Most kids have unconditional love for their parents, whether you're a son or a daughter. But daughters have unconditional love for their fathers 99% of the time. So, as I said, my cousin, she just wanted to find her dad. That's it. And she knew he wasn't doing well. And she's like, cousin, she calls me cousin. I found an address. Go with me. So we I'm born and raised Las Vegas, Nevada. I said, okay, cousin, come on. So we in the hood. We down off D Street, E Street on the west side of Las Vegas. And we find this, almost looks like a duplex. And it's just, Las Vegas is desert. We're in the valley. So we go, we find this little place, and you can't get in the door. Everything's boarded up. So we go to the back. And there's this little bitty, it's not a doggy door, but her dad had it set up like almost like a doggy door, wood, but you could climb through and get inside the house. So we climbed through, we got inside the house, and there was this little stove with 2 little eye burners on it, and there wasn't any furniture, and but we waited there because all she wanted to see was her dad. We waited in that little bitty abandoned like duplex shack. um, for hours. For hours. And I waited with her because that was my cousin. I'm with my cousin on the Price side of my family. We ride or die. What you want to do, cousin? Where you want? Let's come on. I'm with you. We in that thing together. And we waited for hours. And he never came. And she's like, she was so disappointed, and I knew she was, and I tried to encourage her, and we left. And I said, well, cousin, when you're ready to come back, let me know. I'll come back with you. I'm going to come back with you till we find your daddy. So dads, understand. Don't think because you assume that your child is going to look at you in a negative way. Get rid of that thinking. Let that go. Because when you think that way, you're hurting your child even more. You're hurting them more by not allowing them to see you in your vulnerable state. Not allowing them to see you when that's what they need in their soul, in their spirit. They blood of your blood, bone of your bone. They flesh of your flesh. They your DNA. And just because you can't see them, don't think that they can't feel you. They can feel you. Why? Because they carry your habits. They carry the way you think, some of the ways that you think. The way you process your emotions, they carry some of that. If you have spiritual giftings, you might not have ever seen your child, but when they were 3 months old, they carry some of your spiritual giftings from you, from your mother, from your grandfather. We just don't know which child gets what because it's divvied out between all the kids. You got some of great grandmama, you got some of granddaddy, you got some of mama, you got some of daddy. You got some of this, some of that, auntie JoJo, auntie Uncle Fred. They can feel you. It's a spiritual, it's not just physical, it is a spiritual connection there. They are bone of your bone, flesh of your flesh. And a lot of times people don't understand your child because they didn't understand you. But you're the link, Daddy. You're the link. So if you have the opportunity, don't waste time. I know you don't like him. I know you don't like her mama. I know you can't stand that witch. I know you don't like her grandparents. I know you don't. But focus on your baby. Because when they get older, and it's easy to think that time is going to go by so slow. I have time. They won't remember. I'm a daughter. I remember. At my father's funeral, I gave a testimony of how I remember being born. I remembered that I couldn't see anything. I remember the feeling of my mother holding me. She was so gentle that I could barely even tell she was holding me. She moved with so much grace and so much love and concern and attention. I almost thought I was alone all the time, but I wasn't. I was sitting in her arms, but I couldn't see. And I remember my eyes moving trying to see. And I remember pressure on the right side of my face all the time. It was my dad. I could feel when he held me because it was, I wondered. And it's funny because as an infant, you don't know that your brain is thinking. You don't know what thinking is. You don't know what thoughts are. You don't. But I can tell you I was thinking. And I was trying. I was trying to see what this was, putting all this pressure on me. And then it would hurt. After a while, it would hurt. And it was his beard growing in. But he just wanted me on him, but it hurt. And right when I get ready to cry and whine because it hurt too much, he pulled his face off of me. But my dad was always there. I gave that testimony at his funeral. I can remember, and I'll always remember what that felt like when I was born and when he was there. And I knew when he would come. I was smart enough as a newborn baby to tell how often that feeling would come to me. And my dad was a firefighter. So he'd work one day and off one day. Work one day, off one day. I would miss feeling that feeling the days he was at work. I would miss feeling him there. I don't even know what him was. I just know it would always be there, and it was doing something with me, and it, whatever it was doing. Your children are connected to you. So please don't be passive, Daddy. Please don't focus so much on yourself and the disappointments you have about yourself that you leave your children to themselves alone. You have the keys that it takes to help them figure out themselves and who they are. You have the keys to help them understand, why do I keep doing this? Where did this come from? How do I make it better, improve it, or change it? You have to get with your parents. That's a sum of who you are. So daddies, don't leave us hanging. I know you don't like emotional stuff, but talk to us. We want to talk to y'all. Okay. I had an arrogant, prideful father. So for me, I had to learn to balance that. Because how do people look at your children when they deal with you, Daddy? How do they look at your children? And it's anybody. You look at people, parents, and you say, You look at the parents and be like, ooh, poor child. You know what I'm saying? Or you look at the parent, or you look at the parents and be like, wow, their kids are gonna be amazing. Or you look at the parents and you say, all kind of scenarios. One of the biggest things that I had to come to reality with for me was, understanding that because I came from a manly man, because I came from a great man who was highly inspirational, who was highly hands-on with his kids and grandkids. He was very big when it came to real estate, investments, saving, money, travel, beauty. I had to realize that my dad had haters. And as kids, we don't see or think that our parents have haters. So now I'm left to deal with the haters who watched my dad, who were jealous of my dad, who didn't want my dad to succeed. They had always been waiting for him to fall, looking at his kids like, you spoiled, you don't deserve this, your daddy ain't this, your daddy ain't that. Wanting to see his children fall and demise because they wanted to see him fall and demise. Daddies, what kind of man, what kind of father are you? Who do you have around you? And don't ignore your daughters. My dad put his hands to shape, build, encourage, develop me, my sister. Me and my sister went two different directions, but those who hated my father's handiwork and his greatness, do you think that they're going to like the greatness that you put on your daughters or your children? Think back on those dreams you had. You could have some beautiful, elaborate dreams for your daughters. There's going to be haters. Gonna be haters. And I hope this helps you guys kind of think about what type of fathers you are, what type of fathers you want to be, how the stresses of your life, of how your haters and naysayers and betrayers and all these different things come at you. It's not just you they're coming after. They're not going to be happy for your kids either. Just Food for thought. And I'm sharing this again because I watched my father live his best life. But what I didn't expect was the riffraff that was going to come out after his passing. Because Daddy protected me from that. He didn't want me seeing those things. Just like you don't want your daughter seeing certain things. There's certain things you're going to protect your kids from. Because you know adults can be adults and they're not right all the time. Haters are going to be haters and they're not right all the time. And some things, you know, if you read my book, What Future Me Told Past Me, or listen to some of my other content, you're here. You know, my father didn't start off as a firefighter. I grew up with a background of domestic violence, abuse, neglect, exploitations, but I still love my daddy. You know, I grew up, you know, watching a lot of things. And like I said, I've been in the fire department, and I'm not a firefighter, but I'm going to say this. I've been in the fire department all my life, okay? So I've seen stories. I've been at the fire station. I've been at the fire stations when, you know, wifey isn't coming by because you're going to be at work for a whole 24 hours. I've been at the fire stations. I've had the firefighters come to my house and daddy throw parties, mama and daddy throw parties, and you know, I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot. I've seen a lot of stories. I am a daddy's girl. Okay? So please understand, you know, my daddies, you protect your daughters from a lot. I know you do the best you can. And we appreciate you. I appreciate my father even more so, you know, after dealing with, you know, like I said, daddy had side chicks. He had 3 wives. I then dealt with some females too. Daughters deal with the females. That's for another video though. So daddies, just take a deeper look at your background, your fathers, what kind of father you are, what kind of father you aspire to be, how that impacts your haters as you grow, as you climb the ladder, as you conquer your territories and man your throne as the kings that you are. My father was a king, and I know you're a king as well. So as you're running your kingdom, understand there's peasants that are out to break down your legacy and distort it. So food for thought on our next video. And until next time, love you daddies, granddaddies, brothers, uncles, and see you next time.